and Sandy are missing.
Oh, yeah.
But Jenny's going to try and make it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Good
Jenny
evening,
doesn't have to be excused because she's a...
We on? Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to the October 16th meeting of the Hampton Municipal Budget Committee. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are still not into work sessions here with the Budget Committee, and this evening will probably be a briefer meeting than usual so that everyone can watch the debate that I'm sure is very close to their interest this evening. That being said, and before we go forward with what is on our agenda, I wanted to just take a couple of minutes to congratulate Dave Lang for receiving the Loeb First Amendment Award. It goes to show what one single voice can do. As we come into voting season here, one single vote makes a big difference. He made a huge difference with his battle with the LGC. It was in the paper Sunday. If anybody wants to go back and read it, he's done a wonderful job for us in representing this town in the LGC fight so far and keeping that going. So, Dave, if you're out there, congratulations, and thank you very much. This evening, before we get going, I'd like to go around the table and have our members introduce themselves. Deandra?
Diandra Santry.
Mark McFarland.
Brian Lappel.
Edith Joyner.
Laurie Buckley. Joan Rice, Secretary.
Eileen Latimer, Chairman.
Mary Louise Woolsey, Vice Chairman.
Lee Cliff.
Pat Collins.
Ben Moore.
Joe Grzybowski.
Richard Grenier.
Thank you. In the past few years, we have been very critical of CIP development, the nature of the report, the fact that it needed to be updated. And with us tonight, we have Tracy Emmerich, chairman of that committee, who has done an excellent job this year giving us, or trying to give us, everything that we want. We sometimes have to eat our criticism and say, good job, you're working on it, it's active, we know it's a work in progress. When you're done with it, everybody will probably still kick it and fine-tune it, but God, it's a long way from where it was when you started. So I'd like to open it with that, Tracy.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. Just as a little history, the CIP was established in the late 90s, and by vote of the town meeting, it was assigned to the planning board. The planning board took up the mantle. At the time, Tom Gillick was the chairman, looked at what the CIP was all about, and was primarily for two things. One was for borrowing, and one was have the ability to impose impact fees. Tom looked at it as a very administrative project, and so it got its birth as an administrative project, and it just moved along as an administrative project. A couple of years ago, it got a little more visibility in this last election cycle. It got a lot of visibility over things that were capital items that were like surprises. So the committee reformed and kind of recast our mission to say, well, we know it's not the administrative task we need to do. What do we need to do? There is a CIP handbook that was written in about the same period. It's so severe that you couldn't even do it. I mean, it was written in the abstract, theoretical, and when you got down to the practical matters, it didn't make any sense. So we decided as a committee that we would be more than administrative but less than this manual. And so we were kind of wandering around and saying, what does that look like? And we're still trying to figure that out, quite honestly, but we're getting better at it. We've kind of narrowed the parameters, and what I'm going to go over tonight is how it's kind of coming together and how we're going to move forward. We've agreed that this first year may not be everything everybody wants, but it's going to be more than anybody had before, so at least I'll have something to chew on to say, well, why don't we do this, why don't we do that? So with that, the committee has, as part of it, SAU, Winnicott High School, SAU 21, also SAU 90, and the town. Those are the three components of the committee. We have, I think you all received, this is the submission by the town, which is very thorough. And we have similar submissions from SAU 90 that they're fine-tuning. It's certainly not as voluminous, and you'll get copies of that once we have it. You have one page, the last page in their handout. The high school is still, we'll call that a work in progress, because and I gave you what they have provided as well. The things we looked at with the CIP mission was to say we got to prioritize things. How do we prioritize things? Who decides what's up here and who decides what's over here? The handbook says the committee does, and the committee said, well, how do we know? We don't know that we need this more than that. So we went back to the participants and said, okay, let's score. And then we decided, well, what does a score look like? So we kind of took the scoring model out of the handbook, and you have a copy of it here. We edited it because it was slicing the cheese very thin, and so we kind of got into bigger pieces, and so that's why we had this 4-level scoring. Things that are urgent, like the pump station, things that are necessary, things that are improvements, and then the last item are things that are going to be on the CIP but not budgeted. We're just going to have them on there knowing we'd like to have this at some point out there. We don't have enough information, but we know we want to have, for example, a community center somewhere out there. No numbers to add up, no effect on the tax base, but we want it to be visible to the citizens that, yes, this is an item that has been submitted and is part of the CIP. Will it ever happen? We don't know, but it's going to be listed. The goal is to have all of this information online, and I'm going to have to figure out how to get this thing online. But the idea would be to have all the projects online with as much detail as possible, along with the forecast, the budget. The first sheet of what I passed out is part of the town. Well, actually, Mike Switzer does it for everybody. He's going to organize it all for us. But the town information is organized in this fashion. This will be made available. The only year that we're going to actually show tax effect will be for the coming year. So we won't go out here in years 5 and 6 and look at the tax effect, because the projects aren't even necessarily focused or organized yet out there. So for 2013, when this is out, hopefully by the end of this month, the tax effect of what the CIP will be available to the citizens. And that's for all three areas. The second page, oh, by the way, and then the report itself, if you look down the first column that's numeric, you'll see 1s and then 2s. That's basically based on this scoring model, so that the report will be presented by, here's all the 1s, here's all the 2s, and we have some 3s. I don't know if we do right now or not, but we're working on them. But that way you can look and say, okay, what do we got to do? We got to do the 1s, and we'd like to do the 2s. But this is where the debate starts. This is where you all kick in and say, well, do we want to do that? Do we want to do this? I mean, that's the budgeting process. The CIP, we didn't feel that was our realm. Our realm was to say, yes, we need to do something or other. It's necessary for the operation of the continuing operation of the town. Do we do it in 2013 or 2014? That wasn't our call. So that's how this is how it will be organized. The second page comes directly from SAU 90. He has actually continued his down to what the tax effect might be if they do everything they're planning on doing. The third page is SAU 21 Winnicott. And
Tracy, can I just back up for
Sure.
1 minute? Sheets that you have are not final. This is a work in progress.
right,
And I just
absolutely.
wanted to point out on the school sheet that we had a meeting as late as yesterday afternoon, so this sheet has not been revised. So before you jump off a cliff, that 45 cents increase, as far as the impact would be, is actually less because the debt management is in there.
And also the $200,000 for technology upgrades
Right.
is already in the budget, so it doesn't increase the budget. This shows an increase, but it's already in there, so if it doesn't get voted, it'll be a decrease, but it's not going to be an increase, so.
Bottom line, I asked Tracy to have this available so you can see the format that we're working with, but I would say don't hold any number right now
Oh, no, not at all.
fast until we get a revision back, because this is a work in progress.
Good point.
Okay.
Yeah, these are just for information. Yeah, don't publish these, please. The third page is the high school, and they're lagging just a tad as far as getting up to speed with the committee. So the member that was there yesterday knows what it's supposed to look like. She's going to take back what SAU 90 did. They did a very nice job, and so they're using that as a model. They're going to try to update the high school version, of which we're 45%. These numbers are 100% numbers that they provided us. So where we are is we are, I think, closing in on our first cycle of getting it organized. We meet again on the 29th. At that time, hopefully, we'll have everybody's numbers in the same format. We'll have a report to publish. One of the things I've been thinking about is that there probably needs to be a guide from this document to these documents. You know, like project number 111 or something like that hooks them together, because when you get into things like drainage, you've got multiple drainage options. Are you talking about drainage, this drainage, or are you talking about that drainage? No, we're talking about this drainage over here. So I think it's going to be advantageous, and I'm going to bring it up the next meeting, to have some kind of control numbering system so that the numbers tie out with the project. Because right now they're verbiage only, and verbiage can get confusing. So with that, I would ask, anybody have any questions?
Peter?
Yes, sir.
On the demolition of the old courthouse, the decision was used in that facility to support. Is there any funds available because of the asbestos that's in the courthouse?
I wouldn't know. Our job was to organize the projects.
No, I
The
understand
details
that.
of the projects we didn't really get into.
Ben, can you elaborate on that?
They were a tenant, so it's not, it's not the tenant's
Yeah.
responsibility, and they vacated the building
Yeah.
7 years ago, so it's the landlord's problem.
We can get into that when we get to that warrant article. Just as an overview, now you know why there was an urgency in giving you those packets at the last meeting, so you could start to absorb. Basically, now that you have them, what you had was a compilation from all the departments of the things that they then turned over to the CIP committee. What you have in front of you is what was put in order by classification as what should go into the CIP. Some of those projects that you have in that original project, and that original packet of 110 pages, you're going to see in warrant articles, and some of them you may see in the budget. So, as we always say, we get everything the last minute. It was an attempt to give it to you sooner, but bear in mind, you got it sooner, but it wasn't totally fine-tuned. It was for the general overview to say, this is where we're going. Now, and thank you, Tracy, because now we have a CIP that went through that pile and started to put it in its pigeonhole. Still not perfect, okay? Still working with it. We're probably going to work with some of these things till the end of the budget season to see where they'll ultimately end up. But it gives you a clearer picture as a whole of what's out there, and the goal of this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is so that we can have some planning. And the idea behind the planning is to keep that tax rate more here than the peaks and valleys that we see happen sometimes. We can see what's coming down the road, not put it off, and it has a dollar value, so you know if you put it off, it's going to end up here on top of something else. So these were just real critical projects. Something like a recreation center, yes, we want it, we gave it credibility, but it got a TBD because it doesn't have a piece of land, it doesn't have a building
Doesn't have-
plan to it. It doesn't have any essence to it. And it's not that, and Tracy, jump in with me too if I'm saying this one wrong. The TBDs are real. They just haven't come to a definition yet of space, of cost. We didn't just put a wish list in there of everything that everybody wanted, but credible stuff by the community development plan that we should have at some point. So those TBDs, when they have substance, will be turned over to a different classification. All right? Mark?
And that leads me to a question, Trish. Thank you. This is great to actually see kind of laid out ahead. And I think, to your point, Eileen, one other reason that this is good to see ahead of time is so that things don't slip off the radar for 5 years and then cost us 3 times as much down the road, that we've got these improvements that need to be made, whether it's infrastructure or not, on a regular basis, and they don't just keep sliding off because we don't have money 1 year. We have to see it right in our face. My question, and I might have missed it in your original talk there, the classification guidelines and how things are classified.
Right.
Who, like for instance the school, I'm sure the school turns around, SAU 90 gets together and they decide how they're going to classify 1, 2, 3, 4.
No.
No.
CIP classifications
So-
for all entities.
Okay, so
Same thing.
my question then is, how does CIP, is it with membership with Keith on the CIP, or how does the CIP necessarily decide what is urgent versus what is necessary? You know, like saying, we've got 2 road construction projects here. One is 5 Corners, one is at the end of Winnicunnet. How is the decision made which one is critical urgent and which one is a chip?
Part of that comes from the governing body of whoever's in charge. In that particular case, the selectmen would have some influence over how that's categorized through their department head and through the town. You know, we early on decided we can't make that call.
Right.
We can say, gosh, we're piling up an awful lot in 2017. We're going to have to go back to the participants and say, okay, folks, you know, who really has to do it? We've got a lot of pile going on. I'm making this up. I don't know what. But then that's part of the interaction between the 3 participants, is to say, well, your schedule is great, but can you go 1 more year because we've got this coming over here? That's the idea, is to get a little more coordination.
So ultimately, it was on, for instance, if I'm looking at some of the town classifications or projects, it was on words of advice from the selectmen. They said, we think this is an urgent, this is a not so urgent.
They didn't have this,
and
no.
then you folks,
No,
the
they
CIP.
didn't have this classification system
Okay.
at that time. When they first submitted all of this, there wasn't any classification. It was just a submission.
Yeah.
Then we looked at it and said, well, we got to organize this somehow.
Sure.
So that's when the classification came in. We cycled this back through the town manager, back through the department heads, back to, okay, guys, here's how we're going to do it. What do you think? We did get some classifications that were kind of strange, so we had to redefine what they really meant, because we had urgent 2 years out. How do you have something urgent 2 years out?
Right.
down the
So
road
that was
like
just a
we
matter of
always do.
definition. It was just a matter of understanding. Urgent means if we don't do it in the next cycle, we could have a problem. And so that's where it came from.
Okay, so
Like
but it
I
was,
say, this may be, this is the first cycle.
Yep.
Now that we've got the cycle in place, as projects start to mature on the list, they'll probably mature from a to-be-determined category to a 3, which is an improvement of town offerings, as opposed to going from to-be-determined to necessary. I don't know. I mean, things can jump depending on, again, the interaction of the governing body and then the other governing bodies, because we are going to start influencing each other a little bit on scheduling.
The other thing too is, like, when we were in one of the meetings and had gone over this, I know Dick had changed one of them, it was classified as a 1, and like you said, we said we were going to classify that as like a 2 or 3, just because of the year that it was on, or the information wasn't there yet. So sometimes the committee themselves will look at this as well, and with their representatives, make a decision on whether or not it's fallen into that category.
So even as this becomes more of a permanent document, we know it's very fluid right now.
Right.
And in progress. But as it becomes even more of a permanent document, those classifications, by the sounds of it, are going to be a fairly fluid.
Absolutely.
I mean, if something else comes along, like the pump station fails,
Jump to the front
then
line.
it jumps to a number 1 and the pumper jumps to a number 3, or what, right?
That's a
So,
perfect example.
Yeah.
okay, so that is a fluid,
Yes.
okay.
I think what we're really saying is, as the process starts to firm up, the content is always going to be fluid.
Mhm.
So it's really, how do we approach it, how do we work with the different parties and make it a meaningful document?
However, I would say to that, Mark, the classifications, these were not loose descriptions. There was a lot of time and effort that went into the classifications themselves.
I wasn't insinuating, I was just trying
No,
to
no,
figure
no,
out
not-
how it was, the process that it was doing.
I'm not saying you are insinuating. I'm saying this, Tracy,
Yeah, it took us
is
quite a
the
while.
driving tool.
Yep.
Everything is fluid, and like we said with the pump station, we became a one overnight in our world. But this is the driving tool, and this is what gets you from one to another. Not necessarily a department or a budget. This is almost exempt of budget talk. It has to do more with what the community needs were, and this defines the necessity. So now it's driven totally by necessity. Richard?
Tracy, the last page that you handed us, 5-year capital, is this one kind
This is one kind of
of, no, is it your intent in the future to
Reform.
categorize that
Yes,
group in the same manner
Yes.
that you've done here?
exactly. And
Like I said, it's a work in progress, right?
and kind of restructure it. The SAU 90 did an excellent job. Obviously, they don't have as many projects, but the way they organized it is they took, each project had like a page with pictures and indicated what they were talking about, like a roof, circle the roof, parking lot, circle the parking lot. I mean, so it was illustrative of what the project was. And then they put the financing on it. So this is a similar version to what the town's portion did. So we gave this to Winnicott and said, can you make it look like this at some level? And
Can you make it look like that?
well, ultimately that's what's going to do. Yeah.
So
All of this.
SAU 90s and Winnicott
Yep.
will eventually be put into the format
Correct.
like we have here with the classifications
Correct.
of the projects.
Exactly right.
Thank you.
And we also discussed at our last meeting about revolving funds, whether those items should be included in the CIP, like ambulances, because our cut line is $75,000, and a lot of items don't, like cruisers and stuff, don't hit the number. So the EMS though does hit the number of 75,000. What the committee decided to do was to publish a note to the effect that we have a revolving fund that basically pays for the replacements. It exists, and here's how it works, and not include ambulances in the CIP, just to keep the clutter out.
Can I just quickly, Richard, if you look at SAU 90s, they do have a classification on the right-hand side. So they have the
Oh,
new
okay, all right.
boards.
I didn't look far enough, I see it.
I looked at well too, and I was there.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Sandy? And then
Tracy,
Brian.
on Winnicott, they got I would assume it's an estimated total of $6,030,000. So that's going to be incorporated into maybe something underneath here.
No, they'll be part of the spreadsheet.
It will be part of,
Part
and
of
so
the
there,
spreadsheet.
and so then we, as the taxpayers and the budget committee, will be able to see what the tax impact for our share of Winnicott will be.
Correct.
Like we did for SAU 9.
Correct.
And when will that be done?
Well, hopefully by the 29th.
Oh, great. Oh, good.
That's our fingers
Sandy,
crossed.
what they're looking at is putting the three different sections, so you would have the towns, SAU 90 and Winnicott, each separately with subtotals.
But they look alike.
They'll all look alike. And the tax impact, because you're seeing it, Art Gopalan on SAU 90 did it totally across for the 5 or 6 years. You're only going to see 1 year of tax impact because we only feel our next fiscal year is the only one you can affix real numbers to. Everything else is just an estimate.
So when you say we're only going to see 1 year, we will see 1 year for the town, SAU 90, and the county.
The CIP is going to run for 6 years, as you're saying on the town portion of the sheet.
It's a 6-year
It's a
rolling
6-year
forecast.
plan. However, you're only going to see the next year forward for tax impact.
That's not my question. My question is, will that tax impact that we're going to see for that year be for all 3?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
There'll be a sub, and then there'll be a sub for each,
Okay.
and a total,
Right.
and that would be if everything was done,
Right.
and
And all the warning calls.
In all
articles passed.
warrant.
in all warrant articles, so feasibly, you won't be really looking at that total number, but
Great. It's nice to see this, by the way.
I'm excited to see this. Just one little thing is, what's the criteria for not including the ambulance and, or things like that that have, already have the money, the revolving funds in it?
because we
Just
already
not
pay
include it
for
in
it.
the
We already have the money.
We're going to disclose what's going on, so
Okay.
the public knows what's going on, but we're going to say it's not included here intentionally because it's a self-funding activity.
Okay.
And
I just wanted, somewhere it still will be included, but it's not.
it's got to be visible. I mean, that's the whole idea, was the CIP became not non-transparent,
Yeah.
a vague thing, and so what we're trying to do is make it transparent so everybody knows what's going on.
Okay.
The way to look at it, Brian, is that we really tried to have it be, for lack of a better description, those things that need money. If it's in the budget, it has money. If it's in a revolving fund, it has money. All right?
But there still has to be a plan, yes?
Yes.
Well,
And
that's
that's what I'm
that's
getting
why
to.
Tracy has chosen
And
to
that's
do
why I
a
was
separate
asking
sheet,
that.
to have it on a separate sheet.
Like the
so that
ambulance
you
plan.
can see it.
They have a
Right.
plan.
Yep.
All we're going to do is publish their plan and say, here's the ambulance plan,
Right.
but it's self-funding.
But you,
Yeah, that's fine, as long as it's somewhere that we can see one or the other, but it's still a
but
plan.
taking it out was so that that money doesn't end up in that column that we're totaling now for a tax impact, and then putting notes saying it's in, it's out, and keeping that issue separate. I mean, there's very few, we said there might be maybe 2 or 3 items that will come under that category that's funded somewhere else that'll be listed.
There were 4 items that we talked
Four
about
of
at the
them?
meeting. There was EMS, there was recreation, detail, which is the police
Private detail.
fund, and the cable. Those were the
Okay.
4 that were identified
And
at
those
the
will be
meeting.
listed separate.
Excellent.
Anybody else have a question? We thank you.
Well, thank you for
so
your time.
much for coming with us tonight and for all the work that you've done on this, Tracy. Thank you.
Good format. Okay.
Okay, I handed out our part of the budget tonight, but we're going to take it up at the next meeting. Basically, take that, we'll discuss it, and just a thought here. A couple of things have come up this year that we don't have any money for, we don't have any sublines for. One of them is education. Used to be that we didn't even pay anything to go get educated on the laws and the workshops that we took. And now it's getting a little pricey. I think the last one I took was $60.
There's
Plus
always been a
parking,
fee for
plus
those
traveling.
Yeah.
So, you were up around $80 by the time you were done for one course. And in fairness, those who are on the board should have had their education, but every year we do elect new people, and it's only fair that we educate them. So I do feel we need an education expense there, not huge, but something. And the other thing is we generate a lot of paper from time to time, And we don't have a supply line. And I've been doing pretty much all the printing, but when we came up against that report for 110 pages, let me tell you, it became heartburn because, you know, we're starting to take from other departments for something like that, and they accommodated us, and I want to thank them for that. But for 15 copies for 110 pages, excuse me, I called Staples to see what that would have cost us, and it would have been $92 if we had to run it off. And everything else I gave you from the LGC cost me a $60 cartridge on ink. So this stuff doesn't come free. It's not even the paper. Most of the time it's the ink that we get into. That being said, I do feel we need a little something on a supply line. We've built some legal money in the past year that we have not used. For next year, and this is just my conversation to you to think about for the next meeting, I don't want to increase the budget. I just want to redistribute it.
Yeah.
All right, so that we can cover 3 people for education for the tune of $180, and we can just have some money in there for supplies. Sandy?
I just have a quick question. What does the municipal budget law say about the budget committee having its own budget? Is it permissible?
Yes.
It's always
Always.
part of the budget.
I have a question, and I know I'm going to get slammed for this, but anyway, I don't understand for the life of me why we can't send some of this by email.
Oh, you know what? I won't take it up for a whole lot of time tonight, but I'll give you, I've got it in writing.
I have it in what you can do and what you can send,
Yeah.
and as long as no one, there's a lot of stuff you can do by email. And I went to the same classes and everything else, there's a lot you can do
You
by email.
can
It's
send-
sending information.
Brian, you can send information out as long as it has absolutely no opinion to it.
Right.
However,
That's fine.
once you send it out, all right, that doesn't stop anybody that you send it to then send it on. So
Well,
that's
it
where the problem is.
stops us.
Well,
That's where we all have to.
you send it to me, I might send it to everybody else and then do the oops factor, and then that's a meeting.
Well, that's essentially what I do anyway, but
And some of us like to have paper in our
But
hands.
you have,
I'm just saying,
no,
it
you
would,
have
it would
got-
cut a
you
lot
have
of costs
gotten
in the
things.
20th century, 21st
I know,
century.
but
It would save a lot of money.
But some of us want to
something,
actually look at the
something
figures.
can't be.
Yeah, I know,
fine.
but some of us would, just Mary Louise, to that point, some of us would like to drive to, you know, Nantucket 3 times, and because of gas prices and because of the
Yeah.
commodity of gasoline,
Yes.
we've had to look at that as a country and as a community and whatever is not cost effective. There are schools right now, my school's going to go paperless,
Yeah.
no report cards,
Yeah.
no announcements to parents. It is a paperless system to save the environment, to save money. And to your point, I mean, I think that we are in that day and age that 90% of what we do should be electronically
Mark,
distributed.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. The only
So
thing,
we're all going to bring our
well,
computers to
excuse
the
me.
meeting?
The one thing I would say is
Or
that
print it off if you needed a hard copy at home.
Sure, but there's
because,
certain of us
because
that you
we
wouldn't need.
can't, because we can't bring our computers in here and work from our laptops, we do need something to work from in the room. You know, the amount of stuff that we're printing out is minuscule, all right? However, over the course of a year, it does add up. I mean, it's not a big deal. This is something I'm throwing out to you tonight. You can come in the next meeting and say, no, leave it all alone, and I'm okay with that too. But just be aware, there is a cost. And we did get some kickback when I asked for 15 copies of the report, you know, saying, well, okay, whose budget is it going on? And it's like, I don't have one, so I'm, you know, begging.
But if you only had to make 5 copies as opposed to 15,
Well, then who gets the 5? That's the
well,
problem.
I mean, we can all
You'd have to
get
share.
together
You'd
and
have to- you'd
say,
have to-
I
Whoever
need a
wants
hard
paper.
People won't
copy.
even pick up their
Um,
stuff up from the town.
Joe first, and then,
I've noticed the monthly expenses, they're the only ones that they'll report two-sided. Everything else is always
Yeah.
one-sided.
That's good.
I mean, if they're doing it two-sided, that 108-page report, if you did that two-sided,
the 108-page report, just so you know,
I know it's,
was submitted from every department, so it wasn't an easy report, and I really want to thank Fred for putting it together. It wasn't a cohesive report. It was like every department did their piece and sent it in different files. So it wasn't even like we could have one file, because if that was the case, then I could have sent it in one file to all of you, and you could have sorted through yourself. That was a work of art, but it was a way of having you all intact and bring it in here and use it through the budget season. But that brought up this question. Okay, so not to make a big deal out of this, I'm going to leave it there, give it some thought for next meeting.
Yeah.
I'll go with whatever this committee decides, and you've got what we have as a budget as it is, and I'm not emotional one way or the other, okay?
Okay. I just wanted to say, I actually have taken a lot of classes online, and one of the things that I have is a 50-page report from the state of New Hampshire on emailing and cases that have been brought forward because of email. Because once somebody, like I did, made an opinion about an email, that's public knowledge that's supposed to be given to the public. I erred in doing that, making an opinion about the LGC and attending classes through them.
Mhm.
So because I did that, it originally started out as information only, but because I had written back, and you probably saw that email, that became a public meeting. The right to a public meeting for people to be able to say something. So when I found and read about that, I took a class online, and I have a 50-page report of lawsuits that have been filed, 50 different towns and so forth that have filed lawsuits for email that has become public knowledge and was not shared with the public, and they win every time.
Yeah.
Towns lose, and
That's all I was saying, though, is
Yeah.
for a 50-page report to be sent to me, granted,
Well, we don't have
you gotta
that.
be careful, but,
Yeah.
I mean, as
Don't
you were just
respond.
saying,
Brian?
a lot of
I know
stuff
better
that- I
now.
mean, I'm disabled, I can't get down here
Yeah.
every week.
But what I-
If I can get it online and read it, granted, I know, don't respond, but it would just be easier for me to not have to come down here and pick up reports every week, or every month, or whenever they come out, and just have them sent to me. I have a printer, if I want to print it, I can print it,
Right.
I'll print some pages, fine. I just think it would save money in the long run, that's all I'm getting at. It
Yeah.
would just save money, and it's
You're
easier
talking about
for-
like the
for us.
financials?
Anything,
Okay, because if there's something held here,
information.
if you just call Christina, she will oblige you and she will mail it out. All right, that works. And I know that you've got to get the precinct financials to us. What I'm asking is if anybody is sending information one way, and if it's purely strictly information, that's fine. But just on the bottom of it, put information only, do not respond, just to cover yourself. Because this is a hotbed. They're pushing all these
It's
buttons.
not as
Even
big of a
legalities,
hotbed as
though,
you
that
think.
doesn't cover us.
Yes, it does.
No, it's
Oh,
not.
yeah,
If you
it is.
just send
Information
information,
only.
I know, but it says
But
even
the
if you
problem
write
is,
that,
but Brian, the
it
problem
doesn't
is,
cover us. That's
this
what
is
the
a
state.
15-member board, and it's fine if it's just you responding to the chairman.
no, I don't need to respond,
Okay? Yes, but it depends
other than to
what's
say I
being
received
sent.
it.
It depends what's being sent,
Sure.
and it goes from one person, and all it needs to go is to one person, and then one person sends it to 3 or 4 of you're having a
That's
meeting.
not what I was getting at.
It has
but
to be,
anyway,
well, it has to
that's-
be a majority, it does have to be a
Where
majority.
his financials are concerned, they've already been produced by the
Stuck in a
precinct, it's
sandbag.
already public
I was-
knowledge, so they're available.
But as far as the information only, that doesn't actually cover us, because they have said that even if you put information only and do not respond, that doesn't hold anybody to not responding. That's the problem, so.
Mhm. All right, well, everybody is aware, so there we are. Moving on, as I know you all want to do.
Yes, Ben.
Our report. Ben, you got
evening.
anything for us?
Sure. I think the committee had requested some information regarding a study that had been done on the solid waste and recycling collection analysis. I'm going to give you a document. I'm not sure, I don't think your group has gotten this, so if you could copy it for them for the next meeting.
Certainly.
It basically is prepared by Mike, goes through the capital costs that have been committed to solid waste and recycling and the operating costs. It comes down to an answer that says marginally we're doing it less expensive than what an outside quote was in 2011, I believe. I have to say that it doesn't necessarily include all the capital equipment that we are devoting to the project. It only includes the more recent purchases. I would imagine that the wages are probably okay as far as the way that Mike has accumulated it. And what it's being compared to is a quote that's a year old. So to make a long subject perhaps short, it's marginal either way. You know, the numbers inside are very close to the ones outside. Which one might be less expensive is a matter of conjecture. There are benefits to us depending on how you look at it that says the group of people who we have doing solid waste and recycling on a 12-month basis are also available for snow plowing in the winter. So you get, you know, to have a staff there doing one project gives you flexibility on snow removal costs. But certainly there's all the capital that we're now committing to the solid waste and recycling collection is not in this number. There's only four of the packers that, you know, sidearm and rear that we're using, and we're using 6.5 now.
Yeah.
7. So there are some missing factors, but one way or the other, we're not talking about a huge amount of difference between outside and inside right now in my mind, but you can have that and distribute it to your members.
I know it's a moving target right now.
Yeah, the capital needs keep being discussed. The next thing I think you've asked me to look at, or for the board to look at, was the LGC status.
Yes.
I'm sure most of you are aware that the LGC has very recently indicated that it will return $20 million during 2013 by way of a contributions holiday. In other words, they will reduce the amount that is monthly paid to them for health insurance by an amount that's supposed to be up to almost $21 million.
Now, is
At
that
last
why
night's-
we went from 9 to 3? Is that included in that?
No,
Okay.
no.
If-
That contributions holiday does not have anything to do with the relatively low increase in health insurance premiums that we're looking at for 2013.
So how recent is the information you're giving us tonight? Last I saw was on September 26th.
October. I'm looking at an October
Okay.
13th. It is from town attorney. It is marked confidential, so I will read certain bits of
No,
it,
that's
but
okay.
I will not necessarily give it to you to
No,
copy for the committee. I don't think anything of it's going to cause the civilization to end, but I'll respect Mr. Gerald's confidentiality. What we discussed last night was that this contributions holiday, I'm going to call it a holiday. That means that there's no payments. There will be payments each month. We'll be getting this credit back each month over the next 12 months in 2013.
I mean, your bill will go lower, it won't come in as revenue.
I think the bill will say 100,000 contributions holiday, to use that word, will be 5,000, net bill 95,000, okay? What we
credit.
discussed,
Will we know?
just, hold on.
Okay. All right.
You can ask some questions, just give me a
All right,
second.
go ahead, Ben.
Yeah. What we decided last night was that the credit that appears against the total premium will be shown as a revenue in our financial statements. We will not reflect that as a reduction of the health care insurance premium shown in the financial statements. It'll be shown as a revenue line. That'll make it transparent. It'll keep the amount that's coming in over the 12 months segregated and available for ease of viewing.
Yeah.
We have to understand that some portion, 10% I believe is probably the right number. 10% of that will belong to employees because they've made that contribution. That calculation won't be exact because some employees don't have
Right.
insurance, but it should be close to 10%. And it's going to be a process to figure out how that 10% will be returned to employees, because we do not know at this point in time over what period of time this reduction in cost is coming from, and we have to then, get clear about what group of employees are going to share in that premium return. Overall, at $21 million, or they're just about $21 million, don't hold me to this, but I'm thinking that plus minus Hampton's portion is $100,000.
Okay. Well, that was going to be my question. Will there be I know there isn't now. Will there be a point in time where we will have a computation for that number that will represent the following 12 months as
Well,
a
that's
total number?
one of the reasons that we're putting it in revenues, and you can make your own choice about how to do it. But if it's shown in revenues, it's not as sensitive to budget committee review as it would be if we showed it as an appropriation.
Well,
In revenues, we always look this time of year. We always update the revenues, and when the tax rate is set. So while the committee looks at revenues, it's not as sensitive to look, in my opinion, not as sensitive to look at revenues as it is to look at appropriations. So you can make a stab. There's no number included in the revenues that will come in the books to you for this particular item based upon how recently it's been and still some of the question marks. So,
okay.
and I think that. Go ahead.
Don't move off that.
Sure.
This is also going to create a problem for payroll for you guys as far as the employee share is concerned, because the health contributions, as I understand it, are tax deferred. But if the employees are getting money back, there's probably going to be a FICA or some other calculation, because that's what Nathan Lundy told me.
It'll be a 125 issue, and so what it could be is that once we've decided
So it's going to be more
an
work.
active employee, it might not be a problem because you might wait until, and we got to talk to the bargaining units about this.
Right.
I mean, that's the first stop, and we'll.
Because that was Nathan Lundy's concerns with the school, having to backtrack in time and adjust the payroll
Once you've
records,
determined the
et cetera.
period of time, everybody signs off on that.
Yeah.
Once you determine the amount that is due each employee, everybody's signed off on that.
Yeah.
You can then make the adjustments perhaps in the last 6 months of the year, and you actually perhaps say that, if employee A's contribution to health insurance is $50 a week or $50 a pay period, and that employee is getting back $75.
It may be small, but it's going to be
you just reduce it to zero,
for
and
your
then you take
payroll
one.
department.
Oh, it's going to be a it's going to be a lot of paperwork.
So the town will be writing the checks though, it won't come to the employees.
Oh, no. It's between the LGC and the town.
Right, so who
and
is
then-
going to reimburse them directly? Where will their check come from?
Well, I don't think we've worked out that detail.
Okay.
I think the question that was just asked is that because these health care or the health insurance premiums are under Section 125 with the
Right.
employees,
Yeah.
it might be better to net whatever refund a current employee would get through their premium deduction. So if they're paying $75 now, a pay period, and they're supposed to get $75 as an adjustment as a result of their share of this this contributions holiday,
Right.
you just make it zero, 1 month or one pay period. Their net pay goes up, and it doesn't affect their 170. It doesn't affect their Section 125 situation. The more difficult issue is that should any of this be due to a retiree who is no longer getting a current payroll check, it's just going to be another step. We got a process to work out.
Let me just interrupt for a
Have to
quick
keep it
second.
down.
Right before the meeting started, I thought the heating system was coming on. We just experienced a 4.6 magnitude
didn't we?
earthquake here. I looked at you guys and said,
Yes,
"Is this an
you
earthquake?"
said that.
Really?
Yeah, did you, it
It was
felt
a
like
real rumbling.
rumble.
I thought it was just something
I thought he was
said.
about to
I thought it was the heating system.
You have to move.
My phone was going
Sorry,
off.
just to lighten the
I
conversation.
didn't feel it.
How'd you find that out?
Uh-oh.
I got a phone call, I just turned off though, I didn't check it, but he
Oh.
All right, so
God,
for
my
anybody
son's
watching, you heard it first from the Budget
Good night.
Committee.
But everything's still standing.
Happy to
Ben
serve
got
the
everybody
community.
so excited
Right,
that the
Yeah.
Steal your thunder.
But it was significant down here that we all kind of looked at each other for a minute going, wow, that was loud.
The building's settling.
All right, let's
go
go
back
here.
here.
Anything else on LTC?
Oh, every time.
and
I
health
used to go out.
No?
insurance?
Let me know if I need to
No
evacuate.
problem. The September financial statements have probably been distributed to you.
I just gave them out tonight, Ben.
Basically, just as a quick deal, we are doing well year-to-date for the 9 months compared to budget. The finance director now projects that we will underspend by approximately $500,000, which is about 2% of the budget, as he describes it, 1 week of expenditures. So it'll be tight, but I think we'll be well, and we'll try to catch some of the things that either we reduce from the budget or, as we always do, there might be a little bit of year-end planning in trying to get some of those expenditures into 2012 if we believe that they're things that shouldn't wait until the voters tell us what the story is in March. And then last but not least, you didn't ask for this, but I'll give you a quick summary of what your books will look like on Friday.
Good.
The budget that the selectmen have passed on to you is $24,603,000. The default budget that we have agreed yesterday is within $97 of that number. So the two will be almost identical, line by line. Obviously, there are differences between what a default number would be for a particular line item and what we're proposing, but overall, the numbers as we pass them to you will be almost identical, and that's all I got.
That was a lot. Thank you, Ben.
You're welcome.
I have a more quick question to Ben.
Okay.
Why, at this time of year, do we still have encumbrances open? That drives me
Interesting
crazy.
question. I asked the finance director to give us details on what those are. There's actually 3 POs still available.
Yeah.
They are probably the last page of your package as well. They were the last page of mine.
15 and 16.
$9,000 for computers for the police department. $48,000 minus, and I'm not sure if it
Yeah,
actually
that's
shows at the end of
the
September, but minus $7,000 that's been spent on the intersection.
Yeah.
And then the last was some engineering out of Jones for the sanitation.
Yeah.
And the total is 57, about $61,000.
So 63,000,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
just an encumbrance.
I can't argue. I can't argue about why encumbrances are still around in September.
Yeah, I know. It does, again, thank you, though, that's good.
You're welcome.
No school board rep.
All right,
so.
no school board rep. Priest Maureen.
Hello, everyone. I think it was, I'd say 2 weeks ago, the state, Governor Lynch came down to the new facility, and the state recognized the Hampton Beach Village District for all that it has done for the state and for tourism, along with a couple of other individuals and another group that runs some boat in Portsmouth. I don't know, I can't think of the name of it. It's something to do with a barge that carries people across the...
The gondola?
Yeah, what's it again?
That's the Gondola Corporation.
These people will recognize this all.
Yep.
And we do not have an MOU, however. We have a nice citation, but the MOU hasn't been really finalized yet. We've still got a few issues on parking, for example, and a few things that we need to work out to clarify before we sign anything. We did have a very successful summer, however. The events were wonderful. The stage worked out very well. We had a lot of people. I think the businesses did well. Last week's September meeting, Chief Silva spoke, and we made a few motions to help him expedite the permits that need to come to finalize this project before they start doing any digging. So that was done, and that seems to be moving along quite well. That's all I have.
Actually, in conjunction with that, Maureen, because I just watched a rerun of that meeting today, Ben, I think it would be awfully nice if we could get Chief Silver in at some point in time to give us the same type of presentation that he gave to the precinct commissioners, because that was fascinating on the beach station and the utilities and the configuration of the station and the pilings and the whole concept. I found it very interesting, and he did say he didn't have plans for you guys that night, but if he could bring in some sketches or something, because I think we're all interested in the progress.
Given how busy his schedule may be, can we wait until October or November the 29th while he's in, just ask him then?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
And you're going to have something put up in the town office, maybe? Like
He has his own website.
Yeah, there's a
There was a
website, you can watch it going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
If you look at that meeting, you can see it on the board behind him,
Oh,
behind him,
oh,
So that
okay.
whiteboard.
and whatever, and they're supposed to start by November 1st.
Okay.
At least with the preliminary,
That's what
you
the
know,
preliminary.
Yeah.
working through the permitting
I
process
didn't see anything
now.
on the whiteboard on the
Uh,
TV.
I
because
have it here, I'll give it to you
Yeah.
after the meeting.
Go on the town's website, they show everything, the drawings, conceptual
okay.
drawings,
Yeah.
That was
everything's right there.
fascinating.
Yeah,
That
the
was
fire station
fascinating.
has, they have their own
Presentation.
website,
Yeah.
so what?
And
We
did I
can
hear-
get there through the town of
Yeah.
Hampton.
Did I hear
website.
somebody
That's a
say
link.
there's no sewer on Brown Avenue?
There was
He
something
did
that
say
they have
that,
to
that
do.
I
Yes,
guess the
there's
sewer
some.
line is gonna go out onto Ashworth.
That made my ears
Yeah.
go up.
Yeah. Yeah, he did say that he was talking about,
Well, the way it's gonna tie in.
it needs, yeah. It needs
He
to
said we're
go-
going to Ashworth
Yeah,
Ave.
the sidewalks are gonna be raised,
Yeah, well,
I'm not gonna
right.
speak for him,
And the
but
pilings
the
and
pilings and whatever,
and
and
if
it's
the
all.
water
gonna
comes
go
in, it's all gonna stay there in it. But I just was puzzled about that sewer.
Well,
Come in.
if then you guys have an opening in one of your meetings, we're all in this board from this point out. We've got a full agenda.
Yeah.
So you've got a, you can have the chief come in and update. Where you
Well,
going?
the chief comes in, and I'm not sure when his next deal
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, we might have to be a little bit patient, just warning everybody
We
that.
meet with the
Uh,
29th of November.
on the schedule, but we'll be
Yeah.
doing the budget and that.
It was a neat presentation. I just have to say.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Moving on.
I'll move.
Moving on.
I'll move approval of the minutes of September 18th.
Okay. How many have a copy? How many, let's put it this way, how many don't have a copy
I actually
You
read
mean
them
with us
online.
tonight?
with you tonight? Okay,
I read them online. I
send
don't
them
want
that way? Just send, this is,
Actually,
no, that's all right, send one this way.
I got them right here.
no, I didn't have a problem with you.
Okay.
Don't know how to give them.
Oh, I read these already.
Joan always
Yes, I
makes
have
sure
one.
that she sends you the minutes. I've done
Thank
this
you.
myself, I
You
have
have
them.
one?
Yeah.
I've had times I haven't printed them out. It's important that you print them out and bring them, so that when we make changes, you can have those changes.
Or make notes to yourself.
Yeah, well, it's, we can't correct anything unless it's in front of us. All right, do I have a motion?
I did.
And second?
Mr. Clark. Somebody seconded.
Okay. Page 1? Page 2? Page 3? Page 4? And page 5 is adjournment. I don't think anybody was opposed to that one. All right. All those in favor of approving?
Maureen abstained.
Maureen's abstaining, Ben's abstaining.
Why was I abstaining? I think I was...
Were you here last time?
You were here. Yeah, he was here.
Oh, okay.
I put my hand up,
All
yeah.
right, then you're not abstaining. All right, going on to old business, we really don't have any. And unless somebody has something they want to bring up under old business, no strong silent types tonight, that's good. New business, Peter.
Yes, I have an announcement to make. I want to thank the voters in the town of Hampton that elected me to 2 terms on the Budget Committee. It's been a pleasure to be on the committee and to serve a few people and the past Budget Committee members. But due to complete change of schedules and obligations, I looked at our schedule coming up as far as being able to participate in the different departments. And my inability to be at those meetings I'm regretfully resigning from the Budget Committee as of tonight, and I would hope that the members of this board could select another individual to take my place. I believe that the 15-member board accomplishes more than a 14-member board, and I'd like to wish all of you good luck with the budget, and it's been a pleasure serving with you.
We'll miss you, Peter.
Indeed, sir. I think we should all just quit now.
I know where you're going, so I'm not going to feel that bad on a personal note for you. It's a good thing for you. But we are going to miss your dedication, and I'd like to say thank you for letting us know well in advance of budget season so that we can fill the chair.
If I could add one more thing, Eileen, this is my 5th year, so there'll be an open seat for next year for 1 year.
Yeah.
Just to let you know.
Okay. We appreciate that, and I wish you well.
Thank you.
I need a motion to accept the resignation.
I will so move.
Second.
Second. And
Regretfully.
Regretfully.
And all of those approve and shown in the notes with regrets.
Please.
We
Appreciate it.
accept. Thank you. If you ever change your mind, let us know. Keep
I
us
will.
informed. That being
All in
said,
favor?
anyone watching out there, we do have a seat now open for the balance of this year.
Are we all in favor on the motion?
Yeah, we did. We
did?
we were unanimous.
No?
No? Did we have to go backwards on that?
We didn't actually vote.
Oh, I thought we did.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're voting. Now we're voting. Okay.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. I had my hand up. I thought everybody else did. Sorry.
Okay,
Okay,
send
so
us a postcard or something. Keep in touch.
I will, we'll be back and forth,
Tease
but
us. We'll be
Yeah.
here.
dates of the meetings conflicted with what I have
Yeah.
coming up.
We'll be here in the snow. He'll be out in his boat. So we do have a seat open. If you would like to contact me or leave your name with Christine in the town manager's office, and we will take that up at the next meeting. Before, anybody else have anything else under new business? Okay, this should be the shortest meeting in history.
We just want to survive the
I know.
budget process.
Before move to adjourn this meeting, just a reminder, now we start to get into that erratic schedule. Our next meeting is Tuesday, October 30th. I think everybody got a schedule. If you didn't, see me at the end of the meeting. I'll give you one, or another one, however the case may be. Next meeting, 7 o'clock, October 30th on a Tuesday. We will be taking up the first half of general government. Last year, we took it all up in one night. This year, we broke it down. So we will be dealing with finance, town clerk, tax collector, legal department, assessing, zoning, planning, building inspector, conservation commission, and ourselves, municipal budget committee. All right, so that's why I say we have a jam-packed schedule. Go through, excuse me 1 minute. If you haven't had the time, please go back and watch all the work that was done during the work sessions with the Board of Selectmen. So we're not asking the same questions second time. At the very least, you can go back and read the minutes so that you come prepared. We'll be doing a lot, and it does have a flow to it. I've often looked at it that if I gave everybody just 1 minute around the table to ask a question, that would be 15 minutes. And if you only had one question for every segment, every department that we brought in here, that gets us out somewhere around 11 o'clock at night. However, all of your questions are important, and we are not running a race when we get to budget season. All right? What we do is very important. It is your job to actually make the budget. After getting all the recommendations from the department heads, the town manager, and now the Board of Selectmen, it is your job from the next meeting forward to actually develop the budget for this town. So that being said...
Madam Chair, quick question while we're on the schedule. I hadn't even thought of it, but I guess we, obviously, for good reason, decided the November 6th meeting is no longer because of Election Day. Are we just simply sliding November 6th to the 8th to the 13th, kind of so
No,
far?
actually, I took the 6th and moved it to another open date.
Okay,
As
so,
you look at, do you have an old schedule, Mark, maybe? I think maybe you do. I'll give you a new one.
Oh.
Because I moved it. If you don't have one that looks like this, then you have an old one, okay? It was redone when I had to move that, and rather than move everybody, I
and I
just
think
moved
I might have
one.
just said, oh, I got one, I don't need that.
Right, and on the new schedule, what you will see is that we have some open days that I have a schedule only if we need it. So if we do see that, especially as we're doing general government, we're running too long, we can cut it off and bring it in another night.
Okay, fair.
Okay?
So I'm gonna get rid of this.
Two quick things.
Quick.
Okay, here, that 110-page thing, that's very valuable backup, especially for the public works part. And number two, Ben, one thought that I had last night when I was watching your meeting on the article, that on the impact fees, the special warrant article that you guys are talking about, well, you have to put it in,
Oh, the sewer, which impact is?
not impact fees, I'm sorry, the, yes, great,
I don't know.
Tax effect?
the tax effect.
Yep.
It has to be put in 2013 so you can do it in 2014. But when I was talking to Fred a couple of weeks ago, he was indicating there was some flaw in the way the legislature did that, and I don't know if he's discussed that with you guys.
No, but it's, what we're doing now at this point in time is we're conceptually saying yay and nay. We're
Yeah, but you
still
might want to
passing them
check
back
with,
to the attorney to see.
check with him on that, because Fred seemed concerned that the legislature hadn't dotted all the i's and t's.
I think what's been done last year and perhaps the year before is that not a part of the warrant, but as a part of the town report,
Yeah.
those tax effects are listed. It's just
Yeah.
they're not attached
Yeah.
to the language of the article itself.
Can you put that on your to-do list for next meeting?
I'm not sure if there's much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll know the answer to that one by the time you guys ask the question.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
All
I'll
right.
move to adjourn at
Second.
8:06 p.m.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Right.
Thank you, everyone.
All righty.